Hello all, my name is Jeffrey Meier. Today I'd like to talk to you about PTSD. I found an article that produced a report on soldiers with PTSD, and I used an avatar to do so. I'll talk to you about key terms real quick. Everybody know what PTS stands for, I think. Post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSS is used a lot here at post-traumatic stress symptoms. AMBI is acute multiple brain infarction. PLC. PLC is the self-report questionnaire, and it's a report that soldiers are taking before they come home from the combat zone. Post-traumatic stress disorder, following exposure to a traumatic event. Some individuals develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Symptoms include re-experiencing or intrusive recollection, cognitive and behavioral avoidance, emotional numbing, and psychological arousal. Soldiers have told me that a helicopter, the sight or sound of a helicopter will trigger these intrusive recollections. Also, soldiers have told me they drive down the interstate or the highway and they see trash or a box or something out of the usual on the side of the road, and they immediately think of an IED. Post-traumatic stress is a disorder that develops in some people who have experienced a shocking, scary, or dangerous event. People who have PTSD may feel stressed or frightened even when they are not in danger. So PTSD can affect all military personnel, firemen, policemen, and civilians. If you're a civilian and you are in a horrible accident, or you were raped or physically abused, and somehow that can cause PTSD as well. But I'm focusing on soldiers here. The ability to diagnose PTSD and assess the effectiveness of therapy is hindered by the absence of objective markers. Currently, symptoms are assessed mainly by self-report via questionnaire or clinical interview. Self-reporting is vulnerable to demand characteristics. Some patients may over-report to obtain benefits, and some people may under-report symptoms. And it's been my experience that more people are under-reporting than over-reporting. And because of the social stigma, and then because they're worried about career progression, so they'll lie. Avatar. It is necessary to supplement self-reporting with objective behavioral measures, such as observing how a participant behaves in real-world social and non-social situations. That's where the avatar comes in. An approximation to this ideal may be interactive virtual environments, which will allow users to experience stimulated situations via avatar. Avatar continued. An emerging body of literature suggests that users tend to create and deploy avatars that are reasonably accurate representations of their real or perceived self. So people are choosing an avatar they can relate to. The Taylor and Francis group, who did this, conducted this research, and who wrote the article, developed a computer-based platform in which the user guides an on-screen avatar through a series of scenarios representing novel social situations. First, participants were asked to choose from a male or female avatar, one to represent them in the task. The task itself consisted of two scenarios, one attending a party full of strangers and the other volunteering to help on a charity building project. Now, these scenarios don't sound too scary, but to someone with PTSD, social events can be scary, and being around people you don't know or unfamiliar with can be a scary situation. So the participants were given 20 different scripted events within the scenario. The event includes text and an image showing the avatar participating. The participants were given 3 choices in which they could respond. The options include avoidant, relatively non-avoidant, and neutral actions. Those are the 3 choices. The participants received 2 points for selecting avoidant, 1 for intermediate option, and 0 for non-avoidant. The scores could range from 0, least avoidant, to 40, most avoidant. Following completion of the task, participants were given a short questionnaire which asks them to rate on a 4-point scale, none, a little, moderate, high, their familiarity with computers and whether they have ever played computer games. These questions will become relevant later on. Participants were then asked to rate how much they cared about what happened to the avatar in the game. They could say not at all, a little bit, somewhat, a lot, and whether they made decisions in the game that were similar to the way they normally act in real life. Not at all, a little bit, mostly, exactly like me. Participants were also asked whether they had been able to find an avatar which they liked to represent them. Okay, so we have results of the questionnaire. Out of 81 participants, there were actually 82. One participant didn't fill out the questionnaire. So they were asked questions. Familiarity with computers. 24 had no experience, 57 reported moderate to high. This is important because there were a lot of old vets out there, old firemen and policemen who are finally being tested for PTSD. And it could be a problem when you're familiar with the computers or not. So they asked a question. 24 no, 57 with high familiarity. They asked, do you regularly play computer games? 35 participants reported that they do. 80% of participants reported they had been able to find an avatar they liked. That's important. 67% said they cared about what happened to their avatar in the game, somewhat or a lot. And all but 2 participants reported that their behaviors in the game were mostly or exactly how they would normally act in real life. The report stated that none of the variables in the questionnaire affect task scores. So all these questions were asked because they're concerned. Some people would be able to interact with the avatar easier than others, and as it turned out that whether they were familiar with the computer or not didn't affect how they concluded the task. The avatar results. So here we have results from the avatar task itself. The study showed that performance on a computer-based task in which participants control an on-screen avatar as it navigates several scripted scenarios correlates with self-reported post-traumatic stress symptoms in veterans. So that's good news, right? Veteran fills out the questionnaire. If he's honest about it, then he goes and does the avatar and tries to be honest about that, and they correlate with self-reporting. So now you have a little bit of some proof that the questionnaire and the avatar coincide with each other, making a stronger case. The study therefore suggests that virtual reality platforms may have utility in assessing or diagnosing PTSS, while avoiding or at least mitigating some of the limitations of self-report, particularly self-report questionnaires. So that's good news, that they can actually use these results to further diagnose patients. Avatar results continued. The study also replicated prior findings that task performance predicts participants' self-report tendency to engage in avoidant behavior assessed by the AMBI questionnaire. The study strongly suggests a relationship between avoidant behavior in everyday life, not necessarily related to trauma and fear, and post-traumatic stress symptoms, suggesting that avoidance in PTSD may reflect a more general cognitive bias to withdraw or avoid novelty. So they're trying to say here that some people may have an avoidant type personality to begin with. The avatar task seemed engaging for most subjects and, in some cases at least, appeared less burdensome than administer than the 1-2-page paper and pencil questionnaires. And I believe that. I haven't taken the avatar task, but I have taken that questionnaire, and it's burdensome, and I breezed through it. There are several limitations to the current study. First, PTSD symptomatology was based on self-report questionnaire rather than interview-based diagnosis. Although the PCL questionnaire is highly predictive of clinician-rated PTSD in veterans, clinician-administered structured diagnosis interview remains the gold standard. So you need to sit down with a doctor. You can take the questionnaire, you can do the avatar, but you got to sit down with a doctor for the final diagnosis. Limitations. The issue can also be satisfactorily addressed in participants if participants are giving clinical interview. to confirm presence absence of diagnosis at the time of behavioral testing. Another limitation of the study is the high male to female ratio. With this distribution, while this distribution may accurately reflect the veteran population, it does limit generalizability of conclusions about females. Indeed, females may have a different course and expression of post-traumatic stress symptoms than males, so they need to do more testing with females. The most important open question raised by the current results is whether this tendency to exhibit avoidant behavior on the task represents a marker for current post-traumatic stress symptoms, or reflects relatively stable personality trait which might predate exposure to trauma and development of post-traumatic stress symptoms. Future studies are therefore indicated to track whether avoidant behavior on the task waxes and wanes with post-traumatic stress symptoms, particularly in individuals undergoing therapy for PTSD. If so, then the task could potentially be used as a tool to help assess post-traumatic stress symptoms burden as a more objective complement to symptom self-report via questionnaire. In conclusion, to our knowledge, this is the first investigation using a computer avatar to assess avoidant behavior in participants with post-traumatic stress symptoms. Participants' behavior on the task correlates strongly with self-reported post-traumatic stress symptom burden. As such, this computer task may be a useful complement to traditional interview and questionnaire assessment, particularly in populations where traditional symptoms self-report may be problematic. Here are my references. Thank you very much.